What's going on, guys? Armand here. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about Photoshop plugins and which ones I use on a daily basis for my photography workflow. So let's get into it. Alright, so we're here in Photoshop, and the first plugin I like to use is called Lumenzia. It's up here on the right corner. And what this is basically luminosity masking. So if you're wondering what luminosity masking is, so you see here, this is a completed image already. Go ahead and enable all the layers. This is what it looks like. And then that's before and after. So if you see here, these are all layers from Lumenzia. So for example, let's take the base image. Up here you have your darks, your midtones, and your lights. And basically what luminosity masking is you're picking a certain luminance level in the image and then applying an adjustment to that. So down here you have pretty much everything that you have down here, with a couple extras like vignetting and sharpness. So for example, we'll just click on darks. You can see it created a mask. And the cool thing about this is that this is just where it starts off. You can go darker, and you can go from 1 through 7 stops of like darkness or lights, whatever. And then you also have like quarter increments. You can see down here like what your increment level is. And let's just apply, let's just say like brightness to it, for example. So now that like only that part of the image is selected, and that's the only thing that's really going to be affected. So this is probably my #1 most used plugin. I use it on all my photos. This has been an absolute game changer for my workflow, because I don't like using, because in Lightroom I don't really like using like the magic brushes and stuff like that, because you can't reverse that once you bring it into Photoshop. And personally, I would just rather do all that stuff in Photoshop, and with a plugin like Lumenzia, it just makes it generally more accurate, in my opinion. Another cool feature of this is that you not only have your darks, midtones, lights, you have these like zones down here. So you have like zone A, B, C, D, E, and that's like your darkest all the way through your brightest. So that's another way of, you know, just kind of being a little bit more selective of it. And I really like Lumenzia because you can really use this for any style of photography, not just landscape. Like you can use this for architecture, portraits, real estate, whatever. The thing about Lumenzia is that it doesn't have like extras really. So it doesn't have like output for web, saving Photoshop actions, or, you know, like extra things like that. It's really just kind of cut and dry as to what it is. But this is definitely my most used plugin by far. I think Lumenzia right now is about like $40 or something. It doesn't cost that much. But the amount of time it saves me like editing my photos, like imagine if you were to go in and like manually brush all of these layers. Like it would take forever. I used to do that before I knew what luminosity masking was, and now it just saves me so much time. So there's the first one, Lumenzia, absolute favorite. And I would recommend this to like literally anybody. So right now my workflow is do all my raw edits in Lightroom and then bring it into Photoshop as a TIFF file, and then just, you know, build on it from there. So another thing I really like about Lumenzia that I use all the time is this little color picker thing up here. So you can choose this, pick a color, literally anywhere, and it'll pick it. You can click OK, and boom, now all of that is selected. So let's just say, you know, I want to use like color balance on it. Like maybe I want to change the pinks to something else. So now I can go in, you can see like how big of a change that is just to that color. you know, for example. So that's another part of Lumenzia I love using. So there you go, that's Lumenzia. It's about 40 bucks. I recommend it to everybody. My most used Photoshop plugin, if I was gonna just recommend only one plugin to do pretty much everything, it would be that one. All right, another plugin I really like to use, which is actually kind of similar to Lumenzia, is the Pro Panel. This one has some more extras over Lumenzia. It does have all the same luminosity masking parts with like your lights, darks, midtones. You can add adjustments to all that. It does have some extra Photoshop actions that Lumenzia doesn't. Like you can just, you know, easily open Camera Raw, auto align and focus blend your images. Go to filters, there's like the Orton filters, smart sharpening, vignetting, corrections, and effects. I actually really like the enhanced Milky Way feature on here. And the cool thing about these is that you can just kind of like click it and like brush it in yourself if you want. I think that's what it's meant for. I haven't actually used this one as much as Lumenzia because my process is like pretty simple. But if there is like something specialized I need, I will use the Pro Panel for it. It does have a finishing tab too, which is really cool. You get the idea. There's a bunch of extras that this has that Lumenzia doesn't. So the third plugin I really like to use, and I pretty much use this on any image that's like seascape or anything involving water or like a glow or whatever. And this is the AF panel. This is actually a free plugin by Nour Fabio. I think that's how his name is pronounced. Links to everything are in the description, so check them all out. And I really only use this plugin for one feature. It does have like some luminosity masking and stuff, but I really only use this for one feature, and that's the strong Orton effect. You can also do like the light glow, which is like a little bit lesser Orton effect. And what the Orton effect is it's really just a glow. So if you want to really get that like dreamy look, like from your images where, you know, your highlights are bloomed and all that, this is that, which, you know, for this photo is like pretty much perfect. And the way I use it is I'll just use it across the whole image because it does actually a pretty accurate job of picking out the highlights. It does create a layer mask and you can just choose to brush it in. So if you have like a white brush, you know, you can just kind of brush it in all over the place wherever you want it. You know, just like any other layer mask. Or you can just shift click it and it'll cancel out the layer mask. You can just delete the layer mask and then just change the opacity to whatever you want. And there you go. That's how I use that one. Another panel I just got is the TK panel. I don't really see myself ever using this. As you can see up here in the corner, it comes in 3 separate sections. I think they all do the same thing. I'm not really sure. I haven't used it that much, but it's just so clunky and kind of confusing. Like luckily if you mouse over all of these different actions, there's a little description of what they are. But personally, you know, it was only like $23, $24, and it'll get you from A to B just like all the other ones. But the interface is just so clunky and confusing. I probably wouldn't get this over the other ones. But I did get it for one specific feature, and that's the color grading interface, because there aren't really, once you leave Lightroom, there isn't a color grading tab anywhere in Photoshop where you can get your color wheels and just kind of like choose your shadows, midtones, or highlights, and just choose on the color wheel what you want to adjust that to. But the TK panel has that, and that's why I got it. I don't know if I would buy it just for that, but if that's something you need maybe for a job or something, you know, there it is. So that's the TK panel, confusing and clunky. But I do know a lot of pro photographers that use it and they like it, so, you know, maybe it's worth checking out. Maybe I just haven't used it enough, but that's my experience with that. So another plugin I really like to use is Topaz Denoise AI, and all this is a denoiser for grainy or noisy images. And the cool thing about it is that you can use it as a standalone program, or you can use it as a Photoshop plugin. I like to use it as a Photoshop plugin. That's kind of like how I'll finish the image if it's like a pretty grainy image. And there's a couple different modes here. There's standard, clear, low light, and severe noise. I think the low light probably looks the cleanest. Go to single view. There's also just kind of like auto modes, which in my opinion actually looks pretty good, and you can still, you know, change the levels after. Maybe it's removing too much noise and therefore, you know, removing too much detail. So let's say if we put this on like 25. Another thing you can do is come down here and selectively denoise your image. So you can kind of brush this in and maybe just remove noise from one particular area in the image. But yeah, pretty much, I mean, if the image is grainy, it's probably like grainy everywhere, right? So let's just hit apply, and then it's gonna process. It should open back up in Photoshop. Here we go. And here we are. So this top layer is the after. There's the before. And it did a pretty good job, I think. A little bit cleaner than just removing noise in like Lightroom or something with the slider. But there you go, there's another one I like. Topaz Denoise AI. I don't remember how much I paid for it. I think I got it on sale, but I'll put links to, you know, all these plugins in the description. So there you go. Those are all the plugins I use all the time on all my images. Let me know what you guys think, if there's any plugins I should check out, or if you guys like these plugins and if you end up picking up any of them for yourself. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe if you aren't, like the video, and I'll see you guys very soon.